Hello, and welcome. My name is Michelle Louise from Angelic Healing. And today I'm going to chat about how negative emotions trapped in the body can, over time, manifest themselves physically as ailments. So if you bear with me for a second, I'm just going to share the screen with you. She says, just open that up a little bit bigger. Here we go. Now, as I say, my business is Angelic Healing. My business is all about you and your emotional well-being. I love to turn negative thought patterns into positive behaviors by teaching you how to think and heal yourself happy. So why? Well, because you're important, because you matter, and because you really are enough. And because happy people really do live longer. Happy people are less likely to suffer strokes, to have poor health. They're more likely to be more productive. Happy people have stronger connections to their community. They deal with stress situations more effectively, and happy people generally glow completely different from the inside out with good health. So for me, learning how to think and heal yourself happy will help you to change your life by being tapped in to your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So today I'm happy to introduce you to how negative emotions can show up in the body as physical pain, physical ailments. So we live in an extremely feeling universe. We talk about and refer to our feelings quite naturally all of the time. You'll hear and say, how did you feel about that? Are you feeling better today, my love? How did you feel that was fair? Oh, I didn't feel that was very good at all. We're able to describe our feelings, how we are feeling, but are we really tapped in to our emotions enough to actually use them to support our emotional well-being, our health, our immune system? Well, we're all built with this amazing innate navigation system. This is your emotional guidance scale, and it can be used to change the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we behave, if you're aware of it. Now, I wish that they would teach this in school. Now, this is just readily available on the internet, and most coaches will have access to one form or another, but this is the one that really works for me with the colors. So what we've got on one side, we've an arrow pointing up from the green spiral going up to the purple to our happy place. We've got a number there. Number 1 is joy, empowerment, love, appreciation. And on the other side, starting at the green, there's an arrow down the middle of the spiral going right down to the red to our number 22, which, if you can see that, it's fear, it's grief, it's depression, victim and powerlessness, can never say that word, and that is to our emotion of fear. There are only 2 emotional states, either love or an emotional state of fear. Everything else in between is an aspect of one or the other. Now, for some reason, over time, and I'm talking many moons, we've been conditioned to only express what we see as our happy emotions and to suppress anything that we see as our negative, unhappy emotions. And yet we were built with this built-in navigation system of all those emotions for good reason. We're born happy, and we're born to be able to express our emotions without being able to speak. So we all know that a child, if they can't tell you what they want, they'll scream and shout and cry and have a tantrum. And we never tell them that that's wrong. We will try and work out what it is they're wanting. But over time, that's suddenly suppressed as being man up, or big girls don't cry, or pull yourself together, man. And we see it as we can be judged if we are failing, if we're not in anything other than our happy place and feeling fantastic and in good health. And this is not how it's meant to be. So the message really is it's okay not to be okay. It actually shows that you're in perfectly good human order. Now, as I said, we can move around this emotional scale throughout the day, and we're meant to, and we can do. Somebody can ring you with really good news and bang, you'll be at the top of the scale, just like that, absolutely buzzing. You're in your place of flow. You can achieve anything from flow. That's where we manifest from, because it's pure love, emotion of pure love and joy. But then if we've got another phone call or somebody knocked at the door with really bad news, doof, we can quite easily come right back down to the bottom. And what it's important to explain to people is we don't have to be in our happy place permanently. We just couldn't sustain it any more than we can sustain being at the bottom of the emotional scale, living in fear, in fight, flight either. But what we don't tend to realize is we're actually so busy that we are not tapped into how we're feeling until those emotions decide, oi, you've not taken any notice of the warnings I've given you and your body has been giving you. So I'm going to take control of you, bang, and then you're poorly. And nobody really wants that, do they? So what I want to explain to you in a little bit more detail, because this I could do a full session just on the emotional guidance scale, is how our thoughts actually shape our emotions, which then shape our actions and our behavior. So being a clinical hypnotherapist and an energy healer, absolutely, for me, the mind-body connection is huge. There's just no separation between mind, body, and spiritual health. Oh, bear with me for a second. So a balanced physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body is absolutely paramount for the well-being and immune system of the whole body, being in balance. We quite often will work on our mindset and we'll work on our physical body, but do we actually work on the emotional body? Or perhaps we work on the emotional body and neglect the physical body. If we feel that it's letting us down, we tend to disconnect from it and then we feel completely out of sorts. Well, the body takes that on board. The body's actually listening to everything that you think and that you say, and it's taking those instructions as real clear. It doesn't perceive right from wrong, good for bad, negative from positive. It's just doing as it's told. So when we affirm constantly that we feel ill or we can't do something, the body says, and so it is. And because its job is just to look after you, and it thinks because of what you've asked for, that's exactly what you want, it will make sure that you are ill and that you do continue to not be able to do that until you change your language and move around the emotional scale and start to feel more motivated. Okay, so the moment we have a thought, the subconscious will give us a vision connected to that thought, and then the body will match that vision with an emotion. Okay, thoughts create visions, visions are matched with emotions. So if your dominant thought, for example, is not very pleasant, then that's going to be your dominant feeling. That's not going to be very pleasant either. But it works exactly the same on a positive. If your dominant thoughts are happy and motivated and healthy, then your dominant feelings and emotions and actions are going to be positive and healthy too. And that's what I like to go into much more detail in teaching you how to think and heal yourself happy. So I'm going to refer to my notes for this section because there's rather a lot of information. I'm going to give you a fascinating, hopefully a fascinating, head to toe look at how emotions do appear in the body as aches and pains. Okay, so let's start with the head. Now, the head is how we see ourselves. So if you've not got a great vision of yourself, you've got low self-esteem, you're always putting yourself down, then you're likely to have headaches. Okay, the head represents us. So if you're putting yourself down and feeling bad about yourself, and you need really to give yourself some forgiveness. There will be problems with the head and the scalp. The scalp holds tension. Sometimes if you just deliberately try to relax your scalp, you will find it moves. And if it does move, then you have been holding tension in the scalp, which actually stops the hair from growing, because it takes the energy, the oxygen, and the blood away from the hair follicle, with the scalp being squeezing it. Now, ears. Now, I used to get an awful lot of earache as a child, so this really makes sense to me. This is our capacity to hear the truth. If you're not happy with what you're hearing, my parents did a lot of arguing, and so I'd have earache, and you know, really when we aren't able to express how we feel, because children are more often than not taught to comply and to do as they're told, and to, well, years ago, speak when spoken to. So if you can't express that emotion and you're not wanting to hear what's going on, it will show up as an earache. So it's shutting off the truth and not wanting to hear it at some level. And this can also come out in as anger, as an itis as well. You'll see it as sores, cuts, bruises, inflammation in the throat. Any itis is more likely to be an anger, laryngitis, too angry to speak. Your eyes is very similar to the ears, but capacity to see. Not willing to see or afraid to see. You quite often say, no, I'm not ready for that yet. Don't tell me about that, or don't show me that yet. You know, stigmas can be reflection of two directions. You're not really sure which direction you want to go in. Don't want to show me, so your eyes don't work. And so it is. Now, your mouth. Your mouth is the capacity to break down ideas and decisions. Teeth, indecision. The throat, again, expression. I want, I will kind of activity. If you don't feel that you've got any right to speak up, or if there's words unsaid or words you've said that you'd like to take back, this comes out in your sore throats. This is the throat chakra that's actually affected by those things putting you off balance. Your thyroid is affected with, creativity, not being able to express themselves. You know, there's a lot of shoulds. I should be able to do this. I should have done this, that, and the other. It's bound, or you can be bound by outside judgment. Moving now down to the shoulders. Now, this is a big one. Now, we quite often talk about, oh, you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. And if you think of the crucifix being carried, the weight of the shoulders, the burden, the cross to bear, this is where this comes from. It's too big a burden to carry. So you're not free to shoulder the responsibility. It's just too much for you. And that then can extend to the arms and the hands. Because if you're not able to embrace a situation or an event or an idea, perhaps an experience, and there's problems around it, then this is how it's going to affect the arms, because you don't want to embrace the situation. So it becomes too much. And it will come out as the lower arms is the ability to embrace, and the upper arms is the capability of being able to embrace. Okay, so upper arms having the ability but not the capacity to sustain, so they're becoming stretched, they're feeling stretched, becomes too much, hits back in the shoulders, and that's where the burden comes in. But it will come out in your hands as well. If you can't quite get a grip of a situation, or you can't quite get hold of it, grasp it, or clutch. Sometimes we clutch onto something too tight because we don't want to let go. This can cause problems in the fingers, in the detail, in the digits. Too much to handle. Going back to your back, this is like, if you imagine a book has a spine to hold the pages together, and without that spine, the pages would just fall apart. They just wouldn't be together. And this is very similar for us in an emotional state of not feeling supported. We'll feel it as backache. Now, upper back is that lack of emotional support. Middle back is quite often connected with guilt. It's back there. That makes sense, doesn't it? And the lower back is connected with finances. Now, not necessarily money itself, but the fear and the issues connected with either not having enough or around the relationship that you have with money. That knocks out your root chakra as well. Which is at the base of your spine. So that's red for inflammation. So that works perfectly. Now, moving to your breath. Your breath is the absolute most precious thing. And we do take it for granted. Now, we don't sit there and say, I wonder where the next breath's coming from. If it doesn't come in the next 3 minutes, I'll be dead. We just expect it and it comes. Now, if we breathe to stay alive, if we breathe properly, we might just stay alive longer. And it's amazing that when we're in an emotional state of fear, we hold on to our breath. As that energy field is being compressed, the shoulders are coming in to protect the heart. All of those emotions stored in those energy layers, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, are being compressed and taking your breath away. And so breathing is so important. Just doing 3 deep breaths or some meditation or just slowing right down gives you real mental clarity. So you have to trust that the breath is coming. Breath is also obviously connected with the lungs. If we're taking shallow breaths, we're not quite allowing the breath to run right through to fill the lungs to full capacity and to push out any of the stale negative tension or air stored in the lungs. Now, many generations ago within our ancestors, and still goes on in some cultures today, the female species was classed as the lesser species, not really got the same rights as the male. And all that time ago, women would only take in as much breath as they needed because they didn't feel worthy of the space that they took up. And this can still be in our makeup, in our psyche from ancestral times passed on through generations. If you're feeling unworthy, it will hit your lungs and take your breath away, just like shock. Feeling unworthy, not feeling good enough, barely have the right to exist. That's changing now, thankfully, as we evolve. We've got celebrity sports women having incredible results and being up against men just as easy, and quite right too. So lung issues is about cutting off life to yourself like you don't deserve. So these emotions are unworthy, not deserving, not good enough, will affect the breathing. Moving on to the breasts, we think about nourishing, about mothering, breastfeeding. So you can over mother, and this can affect your breaths as well. If you don't nourish yourself enough, give yourself that love that you so freely give to others, that can come out in your breast as well. Resentment eats the body, turning into cancer. And when the body is not at ease, it's in disease. Disease is a body not at ease. And all of these diseases and are negative. It's a negative disruption in the energy flow in the body. If we've not released it, we've not dealt with it, we've not done the work and some forgiveness, and we've held on to it, that's when these emotions really start to take effect physically in the body. Resentment, as we've just seen, is cancer. If you take offense easily or suppress, it can come out, it can boil up as cancer. Arthritis is generally coming from criticism, inward negative self put downs. Fear can cause baldness, ulcers, poor feet. Guilt quite often seeks punishment, doesn't it? Sometimes you feel guilty because you've had an ice cream or some chocolate, so you'll say no to something later on because you don't feel like you deserve it, because you feel guilty because you've treated yourself. But guilt can go a lot deeper than that, clearly. Guilt Guilt creates chronic pain. If it's guilt that's been suppressed and built upon and built upon and built upon, don't forget all those thoughts. If that's the dominant pattern, 60,000 thoughts a day, what percentage of those thoughts are affirming negative emotions back to yourself? That's hurting yourself from the inside out. That's going to come out in chronic pain over time. So let's look at the heart. Okay, well, the heart is, well, it's our central chakra. It's about being centered. We have the root chakra to be completely grounded, and we have the heart chakra is all about love and emotion and being centered. Being in an emotional state of love and joy is a vibration. It's a vibration of energy. It's loving. It's pumping love and joy around the body, through the veins, nourishing every single cell, every molecule, right the way through the body to bring good health and immune system. But when we cut off that joy and deny that love that we so freely give to others, when we're not giving ourselves self-love and self-care, you're literally stopping the heart from nourishing the body. Happy people don't have heart attacks. The heart doesn't attack us. This is from years of squeezing the life out of your heart and not having self-love and giving yourself happiness and joy. It literally just cannot breathe and it will die. But if you're anemic, you're a yes but person. Oh yes but playing tennis. Yeah, well, why don't you try this? Oh yes, but I've tried that. always coming up with objections. Yes but it's tired blood. It's no joy. It's not flowing. It's not in an emotional state of flow. It's not being in flow. High blood pressure is like emotional springs going off internally. Everything is a big deal inside. That makes sense, doesn't it? Low blood pressure. This is the opposite. So this is kind of like my get up and go has got up and gone. So why? Oh, I've tried that. Why bother? It doesn't work for me. Really low vibrational energy. Kidneys is disappointment, failure, kidney failure. Failure is connected to fear, back at that but base of the spine, the root chakra rather. You know, if you think about a kiddie dropping an ice cream on the floor, there's a major tantrum. You know, this is like connected to that tantrum, connected to any failing, like it's a tragedy. You can affect the kidney with that. Tendency to make kind of huge deals out of an experience. However, it's also a really bad kidney failure can sometimes be triggered by something that's happened. If you work it backwards about 2 months before, that they've had an experience or had some news that it's just too much. It's just too much for them to deal with. It's just too big a loss to them and can't go on feeling this way. That will come out in the kidneys as well. Now the liver is like the laboratory of the body with how many functions. It's like the seat of all primitive emotions. So anger, if you get very angry, so much so that there's rage and there's hatred, it will sit in the liver. It will sit in the liver. Stomach, as we know, stomach is all about digestion. So if there's something that you can't digest, some information that you just can't quite take on board, it's the stomach is related to new ideas and assimilating information. And if you can't digest that, then yes, that's going to come out as a digestive issue. And that creative actually goes back to the sacral chakra, that's for creativity, and our sexual organs for new life, manifesting new life. So this is something that you can't grasp or can't take on board, then that's going to knock those chakras out as well. Okay. Now, ulcers come from those experiences of I'm not good enough, really from low down the emotional guidance scale. Going back to the stomach for a moment, if you think as an example, many moons ago when Concorde, well, when planes started to fly for, passengers, there were sick bags, probably still are, in all of the seats in front of us. And that was because that many people couldn't stomach the idea of being flying in the sky in a big tin can with wings. It would knock them sick. And that's where the sick bags come from. We don't really need them as much now. The spleen is affected by obsession, and a colon, unable to release or let go. That makes sense, doesn't it? Constipation, holding on to old crap, literally, ideas that you don't want to let go of. And the opposite, a poorly tummy, letting go too fast. It's kind of like, oh, don't want to know about that. Can't take that on board at all. You're not accepting it rather than holding on to it. It's just flushing right through it. Knees, I always find knees is a really interesting one. This is flexibility connected to pride and ego, forgiveness. If somebody's unforgiving and this has gone on for some time, it's stubborn, it's being proud, it's going to affect the knees because there's no flexibility. You think about how much bending our knees do for us. If we're just not willing to bend and see the other side of the story, that will come out in the knees. And feet, again, this is understanding, standing, fear of moving forward in the feet. If you see somebody elderly, it's literally shuffling, bent into with sticks. How many years of low vibrational thoughts in fear of moving forward? We don't want to let go of that, can't embrace change, don't want to move forward, stuck in their ways. Is that going to have evolved, how many years and how much unforgiveness to be in that state? The body, it just follows those thoughts and reflections. Like skin is connected to feeling threatened. You as an individual, skin issues is fear, it pops out as any kind of irritation or pimple or ulcer. Genitals, the nerve endings are designed to give us pleasure. And again, that over time in different religions and different cultures has been seen as a bit sinful. We talk about all our other organs quite openly, and yet when it comes to down there, the private parts, the no, how many names can you think of that we've been given as if it's shameful and not to be discussed openly? It's like giving you an idea that there's something wrong between your legs. Well, where that has been a big problem to somebody, it comes up as self-hatred and the guilt kicks in as well. There's resentment, then sexual guilt that can come out in your STDs and also in cancer. Self-worth, that's a big one. So we literally gone from head to toe there very quickly, very mindful of the time. But it's important to know that we can move around that emotional guidance scale and clear those negative emotions trapped in the body with there are techniques. And if anybody would, like to know more about it, then please do get in touch, because that's what I'm all about. That's why I love to share, think, and teaching people to think and heal themselves happy, to release, to let go, to forgive, to be happy, to, like we said at the bottom, to glow at the beginning, rather, to glow differently, to heal from the inside out. It is absolutely possible to change your life by changing your thought processes. And a big part of that is your self-talk, your language. And this slide, you will never speak to anyone more than you speak to yourself in your head. So be kind to yourself is absolutely true. The same token, you'll never have another relationship with anybody as long as you do with the relationship with yourself. So you might as well get on with yourself. And instead of berating yourself constantly, putting yourself down, feeling low, having low self-esteem, if you do, Be kind to yourself. Tell yourself, my God, you're looking really good today. Haven't you got wonderful eyes, a lovely smile? Didn't you do? Look at all your achievements. There's so many things that you can do that we can talk about on another day. Okay, so all my services are available as online and in-person group or private bookings if anybody's interested. And I want to say thank you so much for your attention. I say it was very brief and very quick, but there's lots more information where that come through. And if you're interested, you want to know how, then here's my contact details. So help yourself. And thank you very much and have a lovely day. And remember, you matter, you're important, and you are enough. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that, and I shall let you go. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.